Hello everyone and welcome to this ACES how-to video. This is about engaging solar PV contractors. It's mainly aimed at Oxfordshire County Council schools receiving loan agreements, but you might be interested in some of the information about engaging solar PV. So the important point of our presentation is that your instinct may be to engage solar PV contractors immediately, but engaging them at the right time can have better results. So there are several steps we'll go through in this presentation. First, about securing funds or a loan. Secondly, outlining broadly what it is you need. Third is engaging the contractors to invite what we call desktop quotes, which we'll explain. And fourth, engaging further on the details and choosing a contractor. So the first section is securing funds or a loan before engaging with contractors. Successful contractors in the solar PV market are quite busy, and they don't necessarily respond if a client doesn't have the funds already secured. They will offer what we call a desktop quote at no cost, which means giving you an idea of the prices and designs of the solar panel, but without coming to your site as yet. And they're much more likely to engage you when you've secured funding. So keep this in mind. For the schools getting the Oxfordshire County Council loan, remember the requirements include getting a structural survey. However, in almost all cases, solar PV contractors will be doing this anyways, usually with a third party, which is the OCC requirement. Some desktop quotes in advance of getting a structural survey are quite useful because you can narrow down which roofs in the school are most suitable and most likely to have the solar PV panels put on. If you don't do this, you might be looking at getting structural surveys for all your roofs unnecessarily. Finally, sufficient lead time is needed to quote, get approvals, and install. So do keep this in mind. There are certain times of year where contractors are quite busy. So keep this in mind and maybe keep a schedule. The second stage is to actually invite quotes. But before you do so, you need to prepare the information. You'll most likely be needing to provide your electricity use details and obviously details about specifically what site you're at, postcode, etc. You will need to provide requirements that you would like for the quotes in what we call an invitation to quote letter, and ideally a deadline. So giving them a realistic lead-in time to provide you with a quote, but not so long as to leave it sitting. We usually suggest 3 to 4 weeks. Consider your options. For example, you might be looking at solar PV panels, but you might also want to consider solar PV panels with battery storage. If these are two distinct options, let the contractors know that you'd like an option A without and with. And again, ask about timing. Are they available for when you would like these to be installed, for example, during half term or summer holidays? Provide other details with your invitation to quote, such as if you've had some input from others about the roof area that you're looking at. If you've got floor plans, include those. If you've got detailed electricity demand, monthly or even more frequent, very useful, and any photos that would be helpful. Refer to any future plans at the school that would affect a solar PV panel design, such as any extensions being built, any heat pumps replacing gas boilers, or any other changes, major changes in use at the site. And finally, avoid revealing the budget that you have, if you can, using the solar PV array size or other information like area to limit what you're asking for. This will come in handy because you'll be telling them at some point that they're competing against other PV contractors. So if you're ready to invite for desktop quotes and you don't know who you'd like to engage, you can find a list of MCS accredited contractors at the link on the screen. You can narrow down by county, for example, Oxfordshire. You may have also heard from other schools who contractors they've used are. We recommend for OCC loan scheme that you definitely use an MCS certified contractor, and as a general rule to anybody else. So send an invitation to some chosen contractors. We suggest initially choosing 3. If you don't get a response in a reasonable time, halfway through your deadline, if you've not heard anything, for example, choose more. from the list. Quotes and designs will differ. Everybody will design a solar PV panel solution a slightly different way. So in order to compare them, you need to divide the costs for the quotes by the kilowatt peak, kilowatt power of the solar panels to get comparable amounts. Also look at the savings, the equipment warranties, and other elements that make the designs different. Finally, if any of the quotes you're receiving are not clear, go back to them, make sure they give you what you've provided. For example, for the OCC loan scheme, you need to know what the savings are going to be from the solar panels, and they should be based on your actual electricity rates and not guessed. Right, once this has gone through, and if the loan scheme, keep in mind you need to attempt to get 3 quotes, not necessarily receive 3 quotes from solar PV providers, although we strongly recommend it. You can engage those contractors further. The desktop quotes, however, will reveal the most likely roofs for a structural survey. If you have or would like to arrange a visit by the contractors so that they can look at the site in more detail, you can arrange this. You can also engage a single contractor to quote for a third-party structural survey. Again, for the OCC loan, that has to be accredited to the correct engineering requirement for that. In most cases, this will happen anyways. If you're completing the OCC procurement part of the loan scheme, review all the documents that you need to provide OCC and submit it to them to get the final loan approval. And if that happens and you're approved to go forward, you can choose your most desirable contractor and engage them further. That's a quick run through of how to manage solar PV contractors for loan scheme and in general. If you have questions, please email us through the ACES website, or you can contact us in other ways to ask further questions. We wish you the best of luck in procuring solar PV panels.